This really is meant to be that initial conversation, that introduction to the project. It isn't heavy on the information that we're sharing with you, and that's pretty intentional. We really want to make sure that we have the opportunity to speak with you and get your thoughts and your ideas throughout this presentation, this meeting. We had started at 6 p.m. and we have 2 hours of your time. I promise, I know your time is valuable. I promise we will not go over that 2-hour time limit. We are committed to doing that. I'm sure we're all quite busy. And during this session, in order to try and meet those 3 objectives of providing an overview of the project, developing a shared vision and some principles around transportation in Strathroy-Caradoc, and also giving you an idea of some of our next steps, we're going to be using an engagement tool called Menti. And I'd invite you to use your smartphones or your Chrome or any other web browser to engage with that tool. And I'll explain a little bit about that in the next couple of slides. But like I said, again, this is really meant to be that introduction and hearing from you on what your thoughts are when it comes to transportation now and in the future. On to that next slide, Matt, because that was a great segue. Just some light housekeeping. Since this is a virtual session, we just ask that during the presentation slides, I see already we have a number of muted offs. So thank you so much just for ambient noise or things in the background. If you'd like to stay on camera, you're welcome to do so. If you'd prefer to be off, not a problem at all. In terms of providing your input or sharing your ideas, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that if you're not as used to this interface. The first is if you hover at the bottom of your screen. In the very middle, there is a speech bubble, and that is the chat function. I hope that's where it's located in your screen. That's where mine is. But if you click on that, what should happen is a chat should show up on the left-hand side of your screen, which allows you to type in any thoughts, ideas, or comments that you may have. You can send it to the whole group, or you can use the drop-down list to send it to one person in particular. But if you have any thoughts or ideas during the presentation, you're welcome to type that into the chat, and we'll be continually monitoring that over the course of the meeting. In addition to that, if you'd like to just ask a question to the group, which is absolutely fine, we'd suggest that you raise your hand. So that is just a reaction button, which is again at the bottom of the screen again, and you just click the raise hand option on the reactions. There's a couple of other features in there that you may see: laughing, thumbs up, a celebration. If you feel so inclined to use that, you're welcome to as well. But at your leisure, no pressure whatsoever. So chat function and raise your hand are the 2 ways that you're welcome to add your comments, your ideas, and your thoughts as we go through our information and as we have some more dialogue. So next slide, if you wouldn't mind, Matt. This is how you get involved in that Mentimeter tool that I was mentioning. So once again, you're welcome to use either your smartphone if you have one, or a web browser. So you can either open up your camera and hover over the QR code, which is sort of that pixelated image on the right-hand side, and it should link you into the tool. Or you can just go to www.menti.com and it would prompt you to enter the code 5493560. I'll type that in the chat, or maybe Matt, I'll just ask you if you could type that in the chat just as a reference point. We'll have it throughout as well. And there will be a couple of questions over the course of the presentation where a question will come up in that tool and will prompt you to provide an answer or some thoughts or some ideas. So we just have our first one now. And I think, Matt, you're going to just share your screen. So we're going to be toggling in between. Oh, I love when I open these things up and there's already some responses in there. So thank you so much for already getting involved. That's excellent. So the first question, pretty straightforward and easy, a little bit of a tester. How did you learn about today's workshop? And we like to ask this question just to get a sense of how the information's getting out there. And I must admit that initial question is a little bit of a tester as well, because it gives me a sense, or anybody else watching, how many people are responding, so we can hit that magic number each time we ask a question. So wonderful to see on the website, social media, a range, which is really excellent. The municipality has been doing excellent outreach and had some wonderful efforts to promote these activities, and we've been really excited to see the response. So if I haven't said it enough already today, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited about this session and really excited to get your thoughts and to discuss all that is transportation within Strathroy-Caradoc. Okay, I think we're slowing down at around 14, Matt. So I think we are good here, and we'll flag that as a bit of our magic number. So jumping back into the presentation, we're going to start with a bit of an overview of the project itself. And we wanted to give everybody a little bit of a bigger sense of how this particular project in terms of the TMP fits into the wider official plan review for Strathroy-Caradoc, because there are lots of different pieces, but this is a very important and unique component, of course, as part of the bigger picture for the future of Strathroy-Caradoc as we move forward. Next slide. So in terms of the content of where we're building from, Matt, I just wanted to confirm that I'm going to be going over these slides, and that I'm not passing this over elsewhere.
I think Alejandro had a couple comments on these slides.
Perfect, that's great.
Yep, thank you, Claire. Just a housekeeping item. Just wanted to flag it that the session is being recorded. You might have seen a little like red button, sort of like lining up at the top of left corner of your screen. So a quick reminder that's happening. And when it comes to the official plan, so let me just quickly introduce myself again. My name is Alejandro Cifuentes, and I am a senior planner with WSP, and I happen to be the project manager for this Growing Together plan. I think we can all say that we're very excited for the community. We're very excited about being here tonight because I personally believe that what we're doing tonight and what we're going to be doing over the next 12 months or so, 18 months or so, will have a positive impact on the municipality for years to come. I think also wanted to flag and highlight that having so many people taking the time to connect and attend to tonight's workshop, it speaks volumes to the kind of residents and the kind of community that's Strathroy-Caradoc. And it certainly reinforces what we have been hearing from staff, which is that, this is a very engaged, very interested, and very knowledgeable community. And we're hoping to capitalize on those points to make this project a huge success. As Claire was mentioning, I'll be going over a quick sort of, presentation slash, session to give you an overview of the official plan review process. And then I'll be passing it on back to Claire to be talking about the community and community engagement plan, as well as to Brett and John, who will be leading the more or workshop session on the transportation master plan. So why are we here? Are we here tonight? And why is the municipality reviewing its official plan? The municipality's impetus to embark on this process, it's twofold. First, the current official plan was adopted by council in 2006, and that makes it about 15 to 14 years old. It is an older document, and obviously since then, the municipality has changed a lot. And these changes and these changes in not only in size, but also in values and in community need to be reflected in these policy documents. Also, in Ontario, municipalities are required under the Planning Act to update their official plans every 5 years. And this official plan needs to conform with updated provincial and County of Middlesex policy. Secondly, in recent years, the province has modernized and adopted a new sort of like updated land use planning regime. They have updated some of the key legislation components of that regime, including the Planning Act as well as the provincial policy statement. So this review is an opportunity for the municipality to establish and enact policies to manage expected growth and development for the next 25 years. The municipality will obviously be looking forward to or relying on WSP as well as the community, yourselves, to inform this process. That's why we're conducting a series of master plans and studies to ensure that this is a coordinated and comprehensive manner in which we are doing this official plan update. Next slide, please. This project, which we're calling the Growing Together Strathroy-Caradoc, will help plan and guide the future of the municipality over the next 25 years. As you might have noticed, it goes beyond the typical official plan review process, as it also includes the update and in some instances, the development of new master plans and studies. These studies and master plans will help guide infrastructure and budget decisions. They're very important documents, and they will also help to inform the technical aspect and the technical work and the policy requirements of the new official plan. Ultimately, we're hoping that these studies, these master plans, and the official plan will help to maintain and also to enhance the overall quality of life for the community. And that's one of the reasons why I think we are in this line of work and why we're so excited to be here tonight. Next slide, please. Thank you. As mentioned earlier, the Growing Together plan goes beyond the typical official plan review process. It includes multiple inputs and multiple aspects, and these are key drivers that sort of highlight these 8 master plans and studies. I think for everyone's understanding and to establish that baseline, I think it's beneficial to quickly go over what these master plans are and what these master plans will be covering, because as I already mentioned, these studies are very important. They will be guiding decisions for years and years to come, and they will be also informing how and what information will be part of the new official plan review of the new official plan, sorry. So first, we have the Recreational Trails Master Plan. This plan is being led by WSP, and this will help to identify trail routes and improvements to the existing trails network across the entire municipality. We also have a Parks and Recreational Master Plan, which is being led by Monteith Brown Planning Consultants. And this master plan will help to outline the needs and the priorities related to parks and recreation in the community, such as parkland, community facilities, and will definitely be providing some recommendations in terms of the operations and the programming of these spaces. Next, we have the fire location study, which will be reviewing existing fire services in the municipality to identify the best locations for future fire stations, as well as to identify other service enhancements when it comes to emergency services. We also have the employment land study, which is being led by Watson and Associates. And this study will help to provide an assessment of the employment land requirements for the next 25 years. And it will also help to support local economic development. Next slide, please. We also have the Regional Commercial System Study, which is also being led by Watson and Associates. And this will be reviewing the location of existing designated commercial areas in order to establish and determine whether or not there is enough land to meet the current and anticipated market needs and respond to trends like online shopping and what the impacts of, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic will have on how we shop and those commercial activities within the municipality. Next, we have the Service Capacity and Constraint Study, which is being led by WSP. And this study will help to evaluate the capacity for drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater management systems in response to current and future expected growth and needs within the municipality. We also have, and we're also conducting an attainable housing study, which is being led by SHS. We had a workshop about this topic last week, and this study will help to outline an action plan for addressing the gaps between the demand for and the supply of attainable housing within the community, as well as to pave the way in terms of policy direction when it comes to providing more affordable housing within the community and the municipality. And last but not least, we have the Transportation Master Plan, which is being led by WSP. And as was already mentioned, this will help to provide recommendations and strategies to improve the transportation system within the municipality, to address the needs for how people and goods move in, within, and outside of the municipality, and also to respond to future travel demands based on expected population growth. Next, please. So it's a lot of components, and the way we're planning to complete all this is through a very comprehensive approach. We already we started it, or we launched a project rather a few months ago. The project has been kicked off unofficially last week with a workshop related to attainable housing study, as I already mentioned. This is our second public session, our second workshop. We'll be conducting another workshop next week on the recreation and Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as well as on the Trails Master Plan. And we will be going to council next Monday to officially kick off the official plan review process by having what we call a Section 26 meeting. Section 26 making reference to Section 26 of the Planning Act, which will sort of like officially launch this process, and hopefully getting guidance from the blessing from council to continue and carry on with these activities that we have planned over the next 18 to 24 months. So as you can tell by the slide, it is a visual representation of the various lengths associated with each of the project's components. These master plans and studies, there's 8 of them. We're expecting to complete them in phases, 2 phases really, with the first phase of studies being prepared over the next few months. So by around the spring, early summer, we'll have the first sort of like, batch of studies completed, while the rest of the more complex master plans, including the Transportation Master Plan, will be completed later in the year, around the fall of 2021. In 2022, the focus of this project will be on the municipal comprehensive review process and updating the official plan itself. And we are hoping to, at the end of the day, have a final approved and enforced new official plan by the end of 2022. Between now and then, of course, there will be plenty of opportunities for the community, for yourselves to participate and have a say in how you want to see the community change or not to change, whatever the case may be, over the next 25 years. I think that's all I wanted to say tonight. I will be passing it on to Claire and to Brett and John to sort of get us started with the visioning and to be going over some of the community engagement program and what we have in store for the next 18 to 24 months.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Alejandro.
Thank you.
And so, of course, Alejandro's slides really focused on the technical components of each of the different master plans and the different strategies that are being developed. And we see engagement not as only a necessity because we have to meet a lot of requirements for the official plan, but also for the municipal class environmental assessment process and some others. But again, it's not just a requirement, it is a commitment that we're making, that we are building these strategies out together in partnership with community members and stakeholders and representatives who live, work, play, and are responsible for the future of Strathroy-Caradoc. So we hope over the next couple of slides that we'll show to you that we're not just looking to tick off boxes to say we talked to these people or we talked to the community, but to really try and use this process as a way to build these master plans and these strategies together, starting with these visioning sessions and some of our initial engagement, thank you, Matt, that we've been able to launch and really push over the past couple of weeks. And so this slide really just summarizes everything that we've been able to achieve in terms of communicating and informing around the project and the different components. As you would have seen, we saw in your responses that many of you have been to our website, and that was developed specifically because this project has so many pieces, that there are so many components and there's so many different aspects of it that it really requires some focus focused communication and outreach. And so we're committed to making sure that that platform is where you can continually find information about the various projects as we work through the process, whether or not that is updates in the form of formal notices, like the notice of study commencement that we have already published, whether or not it's updates on information that we've heard, connections with social media to make sure that people are aware and that the information is getting out there, or surveys and other virtual engagement. As you can tell, we are still working within the confines that we have to related to COVID-19. And while I'd love to actually be physically sitting in a room with all of you, it is really nice to still be able to meet together and be able to have these types of sessions. And so we continue to try and find ways to make the engagement meaningful, depending on the restrictions that are in place, and continue to revisit that to make sure that we're responding to not only the engagement needs, but also the needs of the community. And there are a really wide range of community representatives and stakeholders that we are engaging with, and we're committed to bringing along as part of this process. And so this slide just summarizes all of the groups, the audiences, the stakeholders, the interested parties that we are intentionally reaching out to, like yourselves, to make sure that your ideas, your thoughts, your inputs are built into the process and built into the creation of the recommendations and the strategies, whatever the plan or whatever the document is being created. So you see in this overview a range of decision makers, technical agencies like conservation authorities or ministry representatives, Indigenous and First Nations communities, staff from the municipality and from the county, but we're also really trying to hone into local and community-based representatives through the Stakeholder Advisory Committee, but also through some of our community-based outreach. And so we really are trying as best as we can to make as many people as we can aware of this process and to build in engagement opportunities for everybody at the key milestones as we move forward. Speaking of which, we do have a number of key engagement milestones that align with or fit into the rest of the technical work. And I should say not just fit into, but they are specifically designed to inform or confirm some of the outcomes or recommendations or ideas found in each of the strategies. So we have 4 rounds of engagement that we are identifying, and that's what's shown on this slide. And most of them are around 2 months of engagement, including sort of ongoing activities like what's on the website, surveys that are currently live, or sessions like this where we're having specific conversations around specific topics. But it works through a process of working together to define that future vision, establish and build out what the future looks like, looking at confirming the recommendations that end up being developed based on initial input, and then ultimately confirming the outcomes of the plans and documents themselves. So again, a lot of this is quite intertwined. We felt that if we included this schedule along with the one that Alejandro had already presented, it would just be too much. But really this commitment is to demonstrate that throughout the process, we are trying as best as we can to build in your thoughts and your ideas and your input. And we are more than happy and very open and very much would like to hear if there are other ways that you think that we could engage or be better at engaging as we work through the process. So with that in mind, I've said vision probably a million times already, but that really is the purpose of today's session, to start to build out that vision. And in also the interest of not having us talk at you this whole time, we're segueing into our first formal activity using the Menti tool. And so what we're trying to achieve here is the creation of a vision statement, which helps to set the direction when it comes to policy in the official plan. And the official plan being that primary guiding document that municipal staff and decision makers go to when deciding how we build out and how we plan for the future of our communities. Sometimes I just like to reiterate that because I know before I got into planning, I hadn't read an official plan back to front, and that may be the same as some of yourselves too. So we start with that as the foundation to be able to build out strategies and to be able to build out policies and recommendations that help to achieve that vision. And when I say vision, again, I'm not thinking a month down the line. I'm not even thinking a year down the line. We're thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the line. You know, what are the fundamental aspects and values that you see as being important to Strathroy-Caradoc that you want to see either supported or new trends identified going forward? So we have 3 questions to help try and tease out what you think that vision could be, what you hope the vision could be. And again, like I said, we're using Menti to be able to do that. So here again, if you'd like to click on the QR code, or if you'd like to go to menti.com with the same code, we have the 3 questions that we're going to be asking, and we're just going to shift over to the real-time results. So the first question is, in your opinion, what are some of Strathroy-Caradoc's defining traits? What are the things that you think? Yeah, Matt, you have a comment?
I think the question got flipped on Menti.
Okay.
So I think
we'll start with, no problem, first 3 words that come to mind when you think of the future of Strathroy-Caradoc, when you think of the ideal community that you live, work, and play in. So again, that very long time frame out, what are the first 3 words that come to mind when you think of that community of the future?
Oh, we're already getting submissions.
Thank you. Wonderful. And again, no word is a wrong word. These are what you would like the future to look like or think the future could look like.
Have we seen oh, few more responses coming in. There we go.
It's a typing one, Matt. You know, sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to type. It's not quite as straightforward as some of the click the option ones, but that's okay. We have time. I had a session a couple weeks ago where I was trying to get through 45 questions in an hour, and that was a speedy one. Yes, Brett, thank you for that. It felt like one of those things that I was set up for oddity. So there's a great number of words coming in. So this is a word cloud for those who haven't seen it. What it tries to do is it tries to show responses that come in frequently and tries to populate it so that it grows with the frequency of the similar responses that come in. So I love that one in the center. I think that that's really wonderful, friendly and inclusive and progressive. I like that a lot of these words really hit on the things that you seem to and that we've seen that are really quite beautiful and wonderful about the community right now. But also I can see some words that articulate some of the desires for the future. And it's not that these are not here now, but it's probably that more could be done and more could be highlighted as we go forward in terms of our recommendations. So I remember, or if my memory serves me, we were hovering around 14 responses in the last question. So I see we're right in around there, which is excellent. I'll give it one more moment for the responses, but remember that we can also use the chat or the hands up function if you'd like. So if you have any other thoughts to add to this in terms of the question itself, please feel free to do that. And then I have the next question coming up as well. So what are some of the challenges that you think might come up when trying to achieve that future vision? What do you think are maybe some of the barriers that could prevent us from achieving that vision that we need to address in order to try and achieve that future vision? It could be something, you know, as small or as big as you'd like. I see someone has tackled a pretty big one, so that is a great highlight already. But again, you know, this is really meant to just try to proactively think about what those challenges are in order for these master plans and these strategies to come up with some recommendations and solutions to address them. And the beauty of a master plan, maybe I'm biased because I'm a big nerd and I really like writing and reading them, is that they really are meant to be a toolkit and a guide and a support to be able to go beyond just policy and to be able to address how work can be done day to day when it comes to transportation or rec and trails or any of the other strategies that are working on. So there are definitely tools in the toolbox to be able to try and address challenges which are very real, like funding or those big question marks around maintenance of infrastructure or a range of options to be provided. So thank you so much. These are really, really great. Matt, if you may want to scroll down to just see some of those other ones that we're getting in. Affordable options. You know, it's interesting. I saw in the word bubble the note inclusivity. And we're seeing a lot more of that these days in terms of intentional strategies to talk about inclusivity and equity and attainability. And so it's really great to see that. And it's something that I know myself and my colleagues here today are looking at even more so when we talk about strategies going forward. So thank you so much. These are absolutely wonderful. Oh, and the one that's close, near and dear to my heart, lack of bike lanes in places for secure bike parking. I know John and I have worked on a couple of those types of strategies before, especially one for Middlesex County in terms of cycling infrastructure. So we know the topic well, as does Brett, and that is just part of the piece of the puzzle when it comes to active and accessible transportation, and definitely something that we are exploring very much so through this, as well as the Rec and Trails plan too. Okay. So I think I always hate cutting off these questions because I'm like, could there be more wonderful responses coming through? But I know that we need to move on a little bit. We have one more question when it comes to the future vision. And as always, you're welcome to add in more words or ideas or thoughts in the chat or add those in your own comments. But maybe I'll move on to that third and final question that we have. So we start with kind of the, well, what are we a bit worried about, but we like to end in the positive. So what are some of the opportunities that we can leverage or try to highlight when it comes to achieving the vision in the future? And sometimes we can illuminate some of that from the challenges, but is there anything that comes to mind, whether it's something that's currently being done in the municipality or something that you've seen elsewhere that maybe could be brought into the municipality as a best practice or an inspirational idea? What are some of those opportunities that could help achieve that future vision? Excellent. Yeah, the strong sense of community and partnerships. Matt, I think already mentioned this earlier, and maybe Alejandro too. We've just been so absolutely impressed by the the amount of involvement and participation and the enthusiasm of the community around these projects and around just the future of Strathroy-Caradoc. And that actually means a lot. You know, we say too many times than I can count, you know, we try to bring forward solutions that are tailored to where we're trying to develop them. And we can only really do that if we're able to hear from the community and if we know your ideas, your thoughts, and know that there's kind of a commitment to participating and partnering. And so that is absolutely a really wonderful opportunity that that I know is not just here for the transportation piece, but for any of the others in the wider OPR itself. Sustainability, excellent, marketable qualities. Yeah, I mean, the other, you know, tagline that you hear a lot is, you know, we're not reinventing the wheel, especially when it comes to the transportation conversation. I've used that also far too many times than I can count. And, you know, that really is in a nutshell, just encapsulating what we were saying here, which is that we're not trying to change everything, not even close. We are starting from a really strong place when it comes to what you already have in terms of your current assets and your environment and your community itself. And that is a really great opportunity for us to build upon, not only within the community, but also at the county level too, in terms of some of those initiatives that they've also been working on, which complement a lot of this great work, or the work that will be done as well. So wonderful. More activities. Amazing. And thank you so much for your thought behind the responses. I'm seeing, you know, lines of text and more comments around, you know, making it more accessible and inclusive for different groups and audiences. So, you know, thank you for your thought and consideration around these comments. They're really, really great and detailed, and that's really helpful for us to be able to hone in on the real intent and the purpose of the comments. So thank you. Wonderful. Oh, I'm so pleased. This is really great. Thank you so much for your participation so far. Like I said, these are really illuminating and helpful for us. These sorts of statements, I know they may seem like they're just going into a virtual bubble, but we really do take them away and we pour through them and we try and understand how they can be used and how they can be built into what we're planning and what we're trying to create with you. So we really do appreciate and thank you for the consideration and for the detail that you've been able to provide so far. This will stay open, even though Matt stops sharing his screen. It does stay open, so please feel free to continue adding to this if it does come up. But I think we'll toggle into the presentation. And at this point is when I finally stop talking and I get to listen a little bit to some of my colleagues. So I'll pass it over to Brett and John.
Thank you, Claire. This is Brett, and I get the opportunity just to talk a little bit as we looked at the whole municipality level to now come down and talk specifically about transportation. But we really want to hear more from you. So I'm just going to speak to one slide and my colleague John Zunick will speak to another. And then we're going to go back and ask you for input on transportation. So I like to set just the stage on the next slide where we're showing just to everyone have a level playing field in terms of what is a transportation master plan and what it is not. So through this process, we are looking at all modes of transportation, whether someone is walking, biking, on transit, driving, goods movement. I know has become even more important, it seems like, during the pandemic with people getting items delivered to their homes, or at least we have. Transportation master plan really is a living document. Although we're looking long term, it's something that we would typically update on a regular basis to make sure it's reflecting the needs of the community, because some things can change. I certainly at the end of 2019 didn't see this pandemic coming, I know. It is a long-term vision. And we want to make sure that it's appropriate for your context and your community. A couple of things that it does not do. We're looking at it from your municipality wide. So we're not going to be focusing necessarily on one specific intersection or one specific road. Something that we often will hear during public meetings and whatnot is the issue of speeding or traffic calming. And so something like that we can certainly address on a municipal wide level, but we probably won't be trying to solve a problem on an individual road through this process, because we're looking at it municipal wide. We do not come up with a detailed design. One time I had someone actually at a session that both Claire and I were at, and the person came up and the first thing he asked is, when is the bulldozer coming? So a bulldozer, I guess, eventually could come, because we are going to come up with a list of projects that we would recommend, but it does not provide the detailed design. Your council would have to approve a budget for anything to be constructed. And oftentimes there would be additional study and perhaps consultation that goes with that before something is constructed. So this does not bypass the municipal class environmental assessment process in terms of, we are addressing a couple of the phases of it, but as you go to detailed design, there could be additional consultation. Even though we're talking transportation, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. So the work that's already been done by the municipality, and also considering what's been done at the county level, we're trying to leverage that and be in conformance with that, and to really come up with the best solution for transportation, to build on the assets that you already have, to identify missing links and to address those. But I don't want to steal my colleague John's thunder, so I'm going to turn it over to him to go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, so some of the things that we are looking to accomplish through this TMP, as well as what we're looking to get from the community, is really get an understanding of some of the day-to-day challenges as well as opportunities that you as residents of this municipality face, and what you think could be improved. We are looking at where existing roads could be extended or new roads could be introduced as part of the broader growth of Strathroy-Caradoc, identifying any sort of missing sidewalk linkages, bike lanes that are both in conformity with the county's plans for cycling as well as the province-wide cycling network. So really getting a sense of where could we perhaps add some sidewalks, add some bike lanes, just to improve the overall active transportation network in the municipality, as well as looking at a very high level where there could be an opportunity to introduce a railway grade separations. So obviously Strathroy has a CN main line running right just south of the downtown core, and Mount Bridges also has 2 rail lines that intersect it. So really taking a high level view of where there could be opportunities to examine future grade separations. So that's just a snapshot of some of the things that we'll be looking at as part of this plan, as well as what we're going to be looking for feedback on.
Before you jump into the activity, John, I thought I'd just highlight the fact that John went out and did a very detailed field investigation a week or 2 ago of as many transportation conditions, I'm sure, as you could find, John, within the municipality. And without putting you too much on the spot, I know that you're able to highlight through those investigations some of those really interesting opportunities and some of those challenges. And a lot of that will be connected with the Rec and Trails master plan, because inherently those will be connected. That is the lamest joke in the book. Obviously it'll be connected, but that is off-road and recreational in nature, but ultimately a trail comes to a road or comes to an intersection, and we need to figure out how to get people to and from where they need to go, no matter if it's in a park, in a green space, or on a road or in a boulevard. So John, hopefully I stalled for a couple of minutes before my question to you, which is, were there any other highlights that you could see from your investigation that was something that struck you as maybe you didn't expect during your field investigation?
Well, we were generally aware of, I guess, the issues with the rail crossings, and I think being in Strathroy, as well as being in Mount Bridges, when there were a number of trains that actually went through the municipality, I think you really get a sense of some of the impacts to the transportation network. Just the cars that were waiting for the trains, sometimes for 3-4 minutes at a time, and sort of how that kind of has a ripple effect with cars waiting on either side of the tracks that spills, into the downtown core, as well as, people and people on bikes that are just obviously having to wait for the trains, not to mention, if there were a fire truck or an ambulance waiting. So I think that was kind of the real eye opener for me, being in Strathroy and Mount Bridges, but also getting a sense of sort of the connectivity, I guess, to Highway 402, as well as seeing exactly how busy things get sort of on people's commute to and from London. So I think those are just some of the things that stood out to me. I think I'm really looking forward to getting a sense of sort of the feedback that we get from the public to see what the real nitty-gritty issues and opportunities are on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing, I promise I won't put you on the spot, John, for another question, or you, Brett, too. We're going to focus on the input of the people who have generously given their time today. But we have created quite a bit of base mapping that illustrates graphically what is on the ground now. So what the routes are, whether or not they are trails or existing or previously proposed cycling routes. We've mentioned the county's cycling master plan that we were fortunate enough to prepare, that is a layer in that, if you will. And so John and Brett and others are using that along with the input that we get today to really hit on that third bullet, which is building out what the network looks like from a walking, cycling, but also, to Brett's point, goods movement and traffic perspective as well. So we couldn't capture it all, plus putting a map like that on a slide of this scale, I wouldn't hear the end of it. So, we just wanted to let you know that that's something we're very much working on, and likely at the next session, we'll be showing a bit more of those to get your thoughts on what we've been able to come up with. But once again, this is about the visioning for transportation. This is about the future of transportation, and what some of your thoughts are on the opportunities and challenges. So once again, we flip this and we stop talking, and we hope that you're able to provide some similar input through our Menti tool specific to transportation within Strathroy-Caradoc. So just again, a brief reminder on what exactly that looks like. Again, that vision, long-term, future, aspirational, and the desired future that we're looking for. And so we have 3 questions that we're going to be asking around that desired future. And the first one is, what are those 3 words, similar to that wider community vision? What are the 3 words that reflect what you hope the future vision for specifically transportation would look like for Strathroy-Caradoc?
Can I just ask a question? Is my video panel showing when I share my screen, or are you just seeing the presentation? Perfect.
Just see the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you.
The beauty of selecting a program as opposed to a screen. I have done that before, where there's then messages and emails popping up. I totally get the worry. So again, this is a type in question. What are those 3 words or less, if you'd like to share 3 words that you think reflect the future for transportation in Strathroy-Caradoc? Right, green, easy to access. Excellent. I just realized I also took a sip and there's no water in that glass, so please don't judge me for that. We will focus on the question. Excellent. Oh, impact, great. Really seeing a very progressive set of words here. This is really exciting to see. And it's been great, and I invite my colleagues to jump in with other thoughts as well. The conversation around transportation has changed so much over the past, as Brett said, year, just in response to COVID, but also beyond that. We're now thinking not just of cycling and walking, but of, e-bikes or other micro-mobility or, other forms or types of transportation. So the conversation, whether or not it's a small, medium, or large municipality or community, it's really exciting to see how that has progressed and changed. But I can definitely see an undertone here. It's not an undertone, it's quite obvious through this word cloud of a desire around more accessible and sustainable and also active modes of transportation when it comes to the network. So really exciting.
And when we see these words like easy access and safe and active transportation and connectivity, as Claire had mentioned, we've been doing some mapping and we're looking kind of at that bird's eye view. And so sometimes there could be a missing link, and it could be for pedestrians, it could be for cyclists, it could be for vehicles, like for everybody. And so we are looking for those types of ways to improve accessibility by whatever mode people would like. And that actually often will help with some of the concerns that are typical in almost every municipality in Ontario in terms of people speeding. Oftentimes people are speeding because they cannot efficiently get where they're trying to go. And so if we can make those connections to give them options outside the automobile, or just to make the route more direct, then that can help to address some of those issues. So it is great to see these words come up, and I appreciate that, and I encourage people to continue to type them in.
And actually, if I could just add one other thing, when I'm seeing this word cloud, another thing that was quite apparent was, I guess, observing people crossing at intersections and at mid-block locations. And I think just when I'm seeing words like easy access and safe and active transportation, connectivity, I think one of the things that I think of immediately is how we sort of design our intersections or locations where people are crossing roadways or crossing railways, making sure that that's accessible and that's safe. So just another thing that come to mind as I happened to be near the high school on 2nd Street during lunch when a number of students were coming and going, and just the sheer number of pedestrians and vehicles all crossing at a number of intersections just kind of made the issue very apparent. So
that was a fancy way of you saying people were jaywalking, right, John? People were just jaywalking where they could find a spot to cross where it was efficient and where they needed to go, right? You see those, whether or not it's crossing in mid-block or if it's a goat path, as we call it, across a yard or a park that isn't, a designated pathway. People will find the routes that are most efficient and most accessible for them, we find. So sometimes we look for those non-specific yet very telling pieces of information to help us learn a little bit more about people's travel patterns and needs too. So that's why the field investigation is so helpful, because it really sometimes tells us the story that we wouldn't be able to just see from a map, a flat map that we create ourselves, along with the really great information that we're getting here. I don't mean to ever call anybody out in terms of more detail, but I am seeing a couple here that are kind of interesting to me. So if you did, I'm going to mention them. So if you did write these and feel comfortable enough to provide some more clarification, we'd love to hear that either in the chat, or if you'd like to let us know and unmute yourself and give us an update. So the one that I saw, the first one that came to mind would be urban standards, urban standard accessible. That's interesting. Is there any other detail that can be shared around that one? If you're open to that or okay with that.
Yeah, I don't mind speaking to that. It's actually one of the counselors.
Thank you.
Specific to some of the growth and development is the need where due to traffic volumes and the amount of people, we have rural roads, in my opinion, that need to be brought up to an urban standard. So sidewalks, etc. And I can use examples: Park House, Rougham, Falcon Bridge come to mind in Mount Bridges. But you have other areas of the municipality where we face the same challenge. So it's the proper timing, getting the timing right with development and improvements to the transportation network.
Wonderful. Thanks very much. That's really helpful. And the examples are really great. Thank you. Thank you very much. The other one, I'm sure I have a sense. Oh, did I see a hand up from Kevin? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to respond a little bit to Neil. So Neil is Kevin Burke. You know, there are roads outside of the towns that also need upgrading, right? When you talk about upgrading roads in Mount Bridges, upgrading the things in Strathroy, that certainly doesn't help us, those of us who live directly in the township.
Correct. And I was just offering up one example, but all of our road network, including, I'll use a second example. We have a lot of consolidation of farms and agriculture, larger equipment. We're still a largely rural municipality, so that takes its toll. So having the right style of roads and to manage what's actually occurring in the rural areas. And now's the time of year where we start to focus on spring breakup and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was just providing one example. It's not to say there isn't needs throughout the whole community.
Oh no, and I understand that, but you know, I just want to make sure that those of us who live completely out in the rural areas don't get ignored here.
Absolutely, both great points. And if it hasn't been impressed enough upon the group, you know, this is definitely, as Brett, I think, has said previously, meant to be a holistic look at the entirety of the municipality, whether or not that is urban or, you know, suburban or more rural areas. And there are absolutely solutions for active and other modes of transportation, no matter what the, I guess I'd be jargony as well and say function of the road is meant to be, based on the network. And we also know that there's a really big consideration of the role of county roads relative to local roads as well. And so that's definitely not lost on us, and part of the considerations of that layered approach for how to create, I'm going to go back to the words in the word cloud, a connected and also accessible, easy to access and safe network around. So thank you for the clarification. Those were some of the ones that were of particular interest, not that the others are not, just was wondering about a little bit more of that detail. So I think we have two more questions. I think I'm going to move on to that second question. So right now, in your opinion, what's one of the best things about the transportation that's currently found in Strathroy-Caradoc? What's something that you would boast about, or maybe I shouldn't go that far, but would just get excited about or feel pleased about in terms of the current transportation, either options or experience that you have or that you've heard? Access to highway, excellent.
5493.
Yeah, so for those, if there's anybody new who's joined us here today, we're using a tool that's an interactive online engagement tool. You can either use your smartphone, sorry, I should have plugged this in again, or you can use a web browser. It's www.menti.com, and then the passcode as 5493560. Excellent. And thank you so much for the comments coming in. seeing that I think what we saw in the word cloud articulated some of the things that you hope to see maintained that you're currently experiencing. So, easy to access, to get in and out, close proximity to major highways and corridors, again, for maybe more of that efficiency. Seeing some great comments around the condition of the roadways, which are really excellent, and access. So excellent. And again, this is about, all modes as well. Oh, saw that as well. Good access to major roads and commuting anywhere. So thank you. But all modes considered. So is there, anything outside of the roadway network currently that comes to mind in terms of being a positive? And the quick answer could just be no, but just wanted to remind people that it is that full breadth. Anything that gets you to and from where you need to go or is part of that trip. I always very, what's the word I want to say? Lame. Lame is the only one that comes to mind. I lame when I say, a trip starts with walking, starts with a walking journey. So inherently, we're always doing something related to transportation, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. But thank you so much for the highlights here. Seeing a lot around easy to access, and also seems like a really wonderfully efficient network of connected destinations within and outside of the community. And some great spine corridors that you have that make it easy to get to and from where you need to go, and opportunities to also kind of stay and play as well when it comes to parking, it seems to. So really wonderful, great responses that we're seeing come in. And I'm seeing it slow down a little bit here. So maybe we'll just actually stop for a moment because we do have a little bit of time and open it up to say, was there anything about any of these responses that you wanted to, add or expand upon to the group, either through the chat or if you want to throw your hand up and provide a comment? Was there anything that maybe you weren't able to capture in the comment or that you wanted to add to in terms of the best things about transportation? Okay, so I think with that, we'll move on to the last question. And, it seems very aggressive. One of the worst things, but I mean, with nuance, of course, what are the things that maybe we want to see improved or things that we really think we need to start thinking about in terms of enhancing and improving about transportation in Strathroy-Caradoc right now? I've got some bets made in my head about what I'm going to see coming up. I'm already winning in my own head, so that's good. But it's really just allowing us to get a sense of where we may want to focus our efforts when it comes to some of those strategies and improvements. Knowing that if I'm going back to some of the earlier comments about the challenges that, whether it's new routes or new facilities or new programs, all of these things do require investment. And so through this process, I know Brett and John will be working with staff and working with stakeholders, and we'll be engaging with you again to talk about, there's a lot of great things that we want to try and do here. How can we do that? And what's going to be the biggest priorities for you when it comes to community focus and when it comes to dedicating resources and efforts and all of that great work that will happen after the plan is developed and ultimately implemented. So with that said, we're great seeing a lot of comments about railway. Maybe that's just because I put John on the spot to talk to talk about the railway field work that he was doing. But, you know, we know just from past work that we've done, as well as the work that John and Brett have done, that is definitely one of those bigger barriers. And so not surprising to see those comments coming up. And again, not just the physical barrier of the railway and how it interacts with the rest of the transportation network, but also what the domino effect is when it comes to traffic and travel and all of that. So absolutely, whether or not it's a design solution or it's, you know, an alternate opportunity solution. But again, seeing some really wonderful continuity between all of the comments that we've seen so far around the desire to be less auto-centric and the desire to be more active and more accessible and more sustainable. And then the comments here about some of those challenges that we're seeing within the community right now, or some of the things that might not be as ideal as what you'd hope to be. And again, really wonderful to see the detail in the responses here. This is really helpful for us and excellent to get a better sense of how we can think about the types of strategies and recommendations and improvements going forward. John or Brett, not to put you on the spot, but, you know, were there any of these comments that that you saw coming through that you wanted to follow up on or had any questions about? Absolutely okay if the answer is just no, because I think there is a lot of detail here, but just wanted to give that opportunity to you.
Do people see an opportunity for a north-south connection other than Head Street? I see there was one of the first comments was regarding north-south connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we've been thinking about. So I'd love to know if people have ideas on that.
So, that was my comment. It's Rob Lowborn here. But just knowing the heading north and south through town is, with Head Street being the only one that's fully within the municipality, it tends to get backed up, and it's only a 40-kilometer-an-hour zone. With the North Meadow secondary plan being developed and the potential of the homes that are going up there eventually, there's going to need to be a secondary north-south route. How you achieve that, I leave that up to the experts.
Yeah.
Right.
It's certainly something we're considering. And just going back to John's point about the high school and people crossing up in that area, and is there an opportunity then to introduce some new connection that might also give access to the high school? I have a high schooler myself who bikes to school, but there needs to be a way to do that, right? And so there could be an opportunity in that regard. But thank you for that comment.
Just one thing to note regarding the railway crossings. It would be, as part of the broader public consultation, I think it would be great to know if there are any railway crossings in particular that are worse than others, or that we should take a closer look at. I think something we'd appreciate.
Great question, John. Any thoughts about that from the group? Specific crossing locations that you think are really challenging or worrisome? Oh, seeing some come in. Thank you very much. That's just in the chat. So Queen Street is one that came up, by the way, for those who might not see the chat coming in. Thanks, Steve. And again, you know, we appreciate that this is a lot to digest on a Wednesday evening. So, you know, we absolutely would love to hear from you following this as well. If you have any ideas, more ideas or thoughts around those more complex locations within Strathroy when it comes to the transportation system and the different conditions as well.
And Claire, if I can just follow up on John's comment, because at the beginning we did see some comments about financial constraints and just trying to balance what people want. Like I want lots of things in my own life, but my finances, there's only so much. And so as we think from the municipal level, that's something to consider. And also just what would we do for a rail crossing in terms of, we certainly can recognize the challenge of the delay, but at the same time, we don't want to introduce something that is detrimental to the urban fabric. If we had to do an overpass, just taken from my own personal experience, again, one time we lived near a rail overpass, and when my children were younger and in grade school, and so they didn't walk to school then, because the only way to get across the rail line was at the overpass, and it was on a arterial road and whatnot. So it would be great if we could maybe depress the rail line to not like create this visual barrier of an overpass, but then that would be a really big financial ticket item. And of course, takes tons of consultation with the people operating the rail, owning the rail. But I'd love some more comments on the rail. I mean, I'm sure it's essential to the community, especially in years past.
So there was another comment, Brett, by the way, of another location. So Carroll Street and York Street was one that was put in. It says that intersection with the railroad road. So sounds like exactly what we were asking about. There was a question that came through around any chance of a commuter stop in Mount Bridges once again.
And I guess that is the market kind of determines that in terms of what would, I mean, I guess someone could provide that type of a public transit service, but the challenge would be on the return for your investment. Would there be enough people using that to warrant it, to make it worthwhile? Recognizing that oftentimes in North America and in Ontario, public transit doesn't pay for itself. But that would be something that people would look at, and that would probably be on the more of the expensive items. And so they would first look at something, they would maybe look at something in terms of, well, how many people, if we had a commuter bus service, which you do have, but if we increase that, how many people would use it until you get to the level of would rail make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also something that we could, I guess, reach out to even via rail and get a sense of what their longer term plans are, particularly with the Strathroy via station, and whether there's been any discussion on their end of introducing even a via rail stop in Mount Bridges, given it's on the Windsor line.
And that I was just going to add something like that too, John, which is kind of the, not clarification, but sometimes we also get into the conversations of, who has jurisdiction or say over what. And while it's within Strathroy-Caradoc, of course, and has an impact on all of you and all of the other residents, sometimes some of these issues aren't necessarily in the hands of municipal staff to make. So that's where our engagement program is definitely trying to build in and bring in those stakeholders to make sure that we're engaging with them to understand what they're doing, similar to the Ministry of Transportation and their highway network, to better understand how it all weaves together, hopefully, and connects. Theme word of most transportation master plans, if I ever had one. Robert, I saw your hand up.
It was just, I was going to ask for clarity on with regards to what type of commuter, but then I see Mel put down rail. So.
Yep, that was a rail related question. Yep. Wonderful, thanks.
If I could just touch on one point that I'm seeing on the screen, Matt, if you could just scroll up slightly. Yeah, I saw there was a comment on, need more sidewalks on roads. And then I saw there was another comment in the chat just about in the winter, watch the snow paths. yeah, when we did our field investigation, we certainly took note of where there were footprints and paths, either on the side of the road or that clearly deviated from trails. So that was well documented, and I think we have a good sense of where people are sort of deviating from the trail and what some very clear, I guess, goat paths and clear desire lines are, and that will all be captured moving forward.
Within some reason around, private land ownership, but of course, there could still be some opportunities there, and that'll be a combined effort, I know, between John and Brett and our colleagues who are working through the recreation and trails strategy as well. Wonderful. So we talked about where these things are happening, and getting your ideas and your input on the actual locations of some of these challenges or opportunities. And while we can type them out and describe them, Matt, maybe I'll just ask you to toggle into the next slide in the PowerPoint presentation, because what we have done is we've set up an interactive mapping tool to be able to capture that information on the project website. And it allows you to drop pins on a map of Strathroy-Caradoc to highlight some of those locations where you would like to see some of these improvements being made, or issues being experienced, whether or not it's traffic delays or crossing issues like we talked about, or accessibility concerns. So it's a range of different types of comments that you could add or include, and essentially you just click on the pin and you drop it in the location where you'd like to provide your comment, and add some details to what that comment would look like. So that's currently on the growingtogethersc.ca page under the Transportation Master Plan project specific page. The link is on the slide, as you can see, and the mapping tool is part of the TMP project. So again, you can interact with that map to physically show where some of those challenges as well as opportunities are within Strathroy-Caradoc that you're seeing or experiencing. I also saw another question or comment come through in the chat, so I'll just highlight that for discussion. So the question is, any chance of a seniors and for those who are other abled van in the future to accommodate the increased population of seniors to get to amenities such as grocery stores? So what is our scope in terms of exploring alternate transit opportunities, and also related to more accessible transportation options?
So Claire, I'd say I would turn that around and ask, like, what is the need? Because yes, I'd say there is a chance. And that's why we're here tonight, to understand, like, what are the needs, so that we can document those and then study them in the next couple months before we come back with some recommendations. So if that is a need, then we want to hear that.
Well, it sounds like from that comment that
It
there
is a
would
need.
be interest.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
would be interest.
So
For
we'll
sure.
note that down. That's in the chat. I know we can. Beauty of these tools is that the items that you input, we can collect, and I don't have to worry about reading my handwriting or someone else's handwriting. But are we also able to save the chat, Claire or Matt? So that, okay. So
and
we
it's also
have
being
the chat
recorded as well,
Exactly.
just as a reminder to everybody.
That's right.
too.
Exactly.
So we do have
So we are
this as
able
a
to
record.
document that as a need that's been raised, and as something that we can then look to address.
And we have also explored that through other past plans that we've worked on for similar size municipalities, whether or not it's part of a wider transportation or transit conversation or something that's specific to an audience. So we have some good examples of other best practices where similar types of programs have been explored. And there was a great note in the chat that I just saw come through that there's some great continuity between that comment and that potential need with the other topics that are being addressed through the OPR, like the Attainable Housing Program, Attainable Housing Master Plan, as well as some of the projects that are coming down the line, as have been noted in the chat. So there's clearly some direction that's already been provided in terms of other planned projects that could align with that or support it further. But yes, everything is documented and everything is saved in multiple formats, which is really lovely about these types of meetings. And we will be summarizing all of that and bringing it back to you to confirm, which nicely segues into our next steps and how we plan to stay in touch. So I'll just quickly go through those next steps, but I'll also open the conversation up to the group again, just to say, was there anything that you heard today that piqued your interest and that you wanted to clarify in more detail? Anything about the process, whether or not it's about the transportation master plan or about some of the other projects or the wider project itself? Is there anything that you hoped you would hear today that we haven't touched on or that we haven't discussed? And of course, like I said, all of your ideas and your thoughts and your input that you do provide through this session will be summarized and will be used to prepare the vision statements for the various master plans. We're going to be confirming what we heard through another survey. So again, this is the starting point. We're going to be using more engagement to be able to confirm what we heard. And then we'll be having some further committee meetings as well as council meetings, as we've said, and public meetings going forward to be able to move forward with and review and engage on some of those recommendations. So seeing some come in, so thank you so much in terms of the comments. So it says lots of comments on JAMBA regarding the lack of transportation. I'm sorry if I'm ignorant about this, but what is JAMBA, if somebody wouldn't mind clarifying that?
It's a Facebook site,
Oh,
Just Ask Mount Bridges.
Wonderful. And I think we said that some of the conversation around this was taking off quite a bit. Oh, thanks so much for the clarification on that. So great. So it will be excellent to see what's coming through there. I'm sure we already have that in terms of some of the transportation specific comments and also promoting some of the other engagement opportunities. So
hello, can I make a comment, please?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'm going to just circle back to the rail underpass or overpass. And you know, I think from my perspective, this no longer is even optional, right? I mean, this town is growing exponentially, and you know, I don't think you can say anymore that it would be nice to have a way to the other side of town. You know, sooner or later, there's going to be a death because either the fire department can't get across, the ambulance can't get across. For 20 years, we've known that we needed one. And just to the point of fiscal responsibility, had we done this 20 years ago, it would already be paid off and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So, you know, at some point you have to draw a line in the sand and say enough's enough. And it doesn't matter what it's going to look like. It's not all rail crossings. It would just be one. You know, pick one that's out of sight. I don't care, but there's got to be a way to get to the other side. I mean, you know, and anybody who doesn't see that is just blind. And I can't speak to why, you know, over the past years that this council has not addressed this and you know, sucked it up, right? And sure, it's going to cost money, but I think people would be prepared to pay for that.
Thank you. And we did see a lot of those comments in the word bubble and some of the others around safety and concerns related to that. And so to your point, it doesn't have to mean improving everything. and every location, you know, what are some of the options we have to really commit to one to improve, to be able to achieve some of those wider objectives. Thanks very much for that comment. That was really helpful. Sandra, and I hope I have your name right. Sometimes it just comes up as the name that you last logged into. So I'm seeing a hand up from a Sandra. I hope that that's right.
Yeah, just thinking back to the train derailment that happened a couple of years ago, and what a nightmare that caused when that whole cross section was closed for several days.
Yeah, the impacts can be extremely significant. Thank you. Anything else from any of my colleagues to add on that? You know, I know we're in the early stages, so it's not to put a pin on, you know, recommendations. We're definitely going to be exploring that, but anything.
I would just say, Claire, that the mapping tool is really a fantastic tool, and I would just encourage you to take a look at that. I'll admit, I live in Markham. I do not live in your community, so you know it better than me, and so we would love to get your local perspective. You have the opportunity to indicate different items on that map and provide some context for us, and we would find that very helpful. And it could be related to rail or other aspects related to transportation.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. And we did put the link in the chat. We can put it in again. I'm sure we will do a follow-up to just say thank you and to also promote that link too. So we'll make sure to get that out there. And it also is about as much word of mouth as we can too. So as much as any of you are also able to share that and share that with your friends or family or others, we would really appreciate it. We would like to hear from as many people as possible and get as much input as we can. And similar to that, in terms of the types of input and how to participate going forward, there are a number of different options that we have available. So after this workshop, more specifically, there will be a visioning survey, as I mentioned, that is coming soon. So we're going to be taking all of the input that we've gotten from the various visioning sessions, including this one and the attainable housing one from last week and the Parks and Rec one next week, I believe. We'll be bringing that all together. We're also going to be promoting the ideas tool on the website, which is more just a platform to share thoughts and share comments and to build upon people's ideas. So that will also be available. And as Brett has mentioned, of course, the interactive map is available. So if there are specific locations within Strathroy-Caradoc that you want to highlight, whether or not they're issues or they're opportunities for improvement, please feel free to use that. So again, a survey, an ideas board to just share thoughts, and an interactive mapping tool will all be available after the workshops to gather more input and continue the conversation. But there are always opportunities to provide input beyond those specific engagement tools. So we are going to make sure that we're constantly having checkbacks and learning as much as we can from the website and the content that we're able to update on there. So those are on the various home pages. You're welcome to email us at officialplan@strathroy-caradoc.ca. I know that not only goes to my inbox, but Matt's inbox, and I think Jen's inbox, and maybe somebody else's. So there's lots of eyes on those comments, and we try our best to respond as much as we can in a timely manner to those comments that come in, and share them with our colleagues. And if you haven't done so already, which I imagine some of you have, if you would like to or are able to register to receive some of our project updates, whether or not that's letting you know when we have another event coming up, or just if more information is available, that gets sent directly to you to let you know that those opportunities are coming up as we go forward. So we have a last couple of questions, and we're doing pretty well with time. So again, if you'd like to share any more thoughts in the chat or throw your hands up for any commentary, please feel free to do so. But we have a last couple of 2 questions using the Menti tool. That is just more about your experience today in terms of the workshop or the visioning session that we've had. And so we're going to bring those questions up now. And so the first question is, thank you very much. Did you find the information today to be helpful for you to understand? Or would you like a little bit more? We always want to make sure we're not overwhelming people with too much information. The worst is, like a 60 slide deck with, just me chatting at you. So we can definitely appreciate that sometimes we try to scale back, but it also allows us to know if you'd like to hear a bit more, and we can do that either through the web page or through additional communications as we move forward. So thank you very much. I think we'll be doing a little bit of following up. And if you'd like to email our direct email or reach out to any of the team members to have some more specific questions of clarification, or if there's anything that you wanted to learn a little bit more specifically about, we're also happy to respond to that as well. Not a problem at all. And so as we hit on that very close to the magic number, which I think we just got to now, we will shift on to our last question of the evening, which is that, is there another way that you would prefer to be involved in this project? Is there an alternate way that you think would be easier to get involved in, or that you'd like to be part of, whether or not that's more focused conversation one-on-one, or if there's more information that you'd like to share? Matt, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, at last week's session, we got some really great feedback on this question. And we actually, if you saw the invite today, we actually posted the slides on the website ahead of today's meeting and provided that link. And that was something that people directly asked for at the last session. So we really want to try to be as responsive as possible. And another thing we heard was to put up the code for the Menti more often. So we've tried to add that slide a few more times, and then also type it in the chat box. So, if it's just something small like that, that helps make this a better session, we're happy to take those away. And thanks for sharing this important feedback.
Mm-hmm. And if we hear nothing, then we're just obviously doing everything perfectly. So that is wonderful to hear. No, there's always opportunities for improvement. Wonderful. Okay. So we do have a little bit more time. Excellent. Smaller milestones for discussion. Excellent. Great point. We can kind of focus and pare down and really focus in on the conversation. I think the next session that we have, there will be some really great opportunities to be able to focus in on some of those key topics and have more strategic conversations, I guess would be the best way to say it. We know that these initial conversations can sometimes be quite wide reaching, especially when you're asking about, the 30-year-long vision for the future. So excellent. So at the next meeting, spoiler alert a little bit, we're hoping to use a tool that allows for the interactive map engagement. So at that time, we're hoping to bring up some of the initial ideas on the routing and the improvements so that we can actually have you and others interacting with that map. So glad to see that that is of interest because that was definitely something that we were interested in exploring. Nice to see all of the submitted answers on the screen. Yep, so we can definitely look to do, there's some opportunities for whiteboarding as well as looking at showing some of the results in different ways, whether or not that's other images. And there's some great capabilities to have breakout groups actually through these virtual sessions. And that is definitely going to be a wonderful opportunity, especially for the next round of engagement when we talk a little bit more about the different modes. You know, maybe we could have a little breakout group for, you know, cycling, or one for pedestrians and one for goods movement, and kind of move people within that. So these are really, really helpful, and really great for us to know that we're at least on the right track with virtual engagement. So happy to see that. And we'll still be monitoring and assessing what is possible when it comes to engagement. It'll likely continue to be virtual, but who knows, maybe we'll be able to meet in person one day to talk about these projects if we're lucky enough. Again, if there's any other questions or clarification or thoughts or ideas that anybody wanted to share, we will be here until 8. Kevin, did I see a hand up on that one?
Yeah, I guess just a question, and I'm not complaining about the virtual stuff at all, but right now, as far as I know, the only way to get this information is virtually, either from Facebook or off the Strathroy-Caradoc Township website. So I get the feeling that a lot of people don't know this is going on, because if in reality, if you don't go looking for it, or you haven't signed up for information from the township, you're not going to know that this is happening, right?
So great point, Kevin. And that was actually something when we were developing the engagement strategy that was an aspect of focus, definitely for the municipality and for us. You know, how do we respect the restrictions that are in place while acknowledging that not everybody, or not even close to that, are virtual. So I know through some of the staff members at the municipality, we are exploring a range of non-exclusive to website promotional opportunities, whether or not it's billboards or through local newsletters and publications, or through newspapers, or through mail outs.
Sorry to interrupt, but what's wrong with the mail system?
Sorry?
We're not getting anything from the township on this through Canada Post.
Yeah, and so there isn't.
You know who lives here? Nothing gets published except virtually, and I get the feeling that people aren't aware this is going on. Billboards. I don't drive through Strathroy every day, so why not mail-ins to everyone in the township, everyone in the municipality?
So we have one coming up, actually, Kevin, through the utility bills that we're going to be using, where we're going to be getting.
That's no good. I live in the township. I don't get a utility bill from Strathroy.
Kevin, if I can just interject, we actually sent one through the tax mail out, and not the utility bill. And that was sent out actually at the beginning of the project in January. And we want to work with the municipality to do more of that. Throughout the project for sure.
And that's all I'm saying. I think I think you could do more to make sure that people know that this is going on and give a chance to get involved. You put it in the tax mailing, and people are only interested in what their bill is. Right. The rest of the stuff they view as propaganda, right? Rightly or wrongly. But you know, I think we could do a better job of making sure that everyone's aware of what's going on, because virtually just doesn't work for a lot of people, right?
Yep. And so some of the
only way to get the information is from a website that you have to go looking for, then you're missing half your people.
Absolutely. And I know that is something that we are going to continue to explore with the municipality on what some of those mailouts could be, or what other platforms are, again, not just through the website. So your point is bang on what we're trying to make sure that we're building out in terms of some of the additional promotion, for sure. The other aspect of it that I'll just add in there would be that, you know, the meetings we're trying where we can. That's why we record them. We can make them into, you know, slide decks that are accessible, that can be printed and mailed out to people if they would like to see them. We're happy to do phone calls if somebody would prefer to do a phone call. As we move forward with maybe less restriction, if there is a preference around phoning in and asking for, you know, a distance one-on-one meeting or something like that, that is definitely a set of opportunities that we would be open to exploring. And I know that we could probably do a better job of promoting what those options are through the different avenues of getting in touch with people too. Okay, great. Jen, I saw you turn on your video. Was there something that you wanted to add in on that? Maybe just from a communication standpoint? If not, I'm sorry to put you on the spot there.
That's okay, Claire. I think you did talk very succinctly about the priority that the municipality is having about getting the word out for this project. So this is very early days for the project, and we have talked about the various ways that we're going to be able to provide promotional material over time. We've had radio spots. We are going to have a billboard. There is a free publication that goes out to every property in the municipality that is going to have a full page spread of information relating to this website and this project generally, as well as, you know, various opportunities throughout the project for specific survey opportunities, whether it's mail outs, whether it's, you know, conversations with staff, either on the phone or directly. So it is something that we are very aware of, not only that, you know, people aren't aware of it, but people don't have access to internet throughout our entire community. We know that means that we have to do more and above board of trying all the effort that we can make to get this out to people, just not on the website.
And if we can, like I said at the beginning, I wish we could be meeting in person. I really do. We do have to, obviously, as we all know, follow public health protocols and guidelines. So that's one of the reasons why I mentioned that we're trying to monitor that and be respectful of it. So if we're able to, within the timeline for the project, be out in the community, even if it's just smaller pop-ups, to be at events or to be at some in-person locations, you know, we're happy to explore that if the restrictions allow us to do that. I'm Matt, myself, and John are all based in Kitchener and Waterloo, and we're pretty close-ish by. So, you know, if we can be out there, we would like to try to as well.
Hi, I'd just like to voice my support for the dedicated mail out regarding this project. You know, I think the caller made good comments that you know, if you shove it in with something else, it's likely going to be ignored. You know, I go back a couple months ago. I think the town didn't they send out a mass mail out about some stupid water meter that had to be replaced? You know, I got to think that this is at least as important.
Yeah, we find that mail outs, to your point, and the point made earlier, are absolutely a great tool. So as Jen has mentioned, we're trying to find a number of those different opportunities where we can have those mail outs for either notification or just for information sharing. That's one of the reasons why we're trying to put together the spread, is that hopefully that will nicely summarize a lot of what we're doing and provide enough overview, I guess, of what the different options are. We used to look at a lot of these engagement activities in isolation and, you know, try and figure out if it was a success if X number of people showed up. And now we try and look at engagement sort of in like the aggregate. And maybe that's for our benefit, but it's also because there are so many different avenues now to provide input. So we've talked about the survey, whether or not that's online or mail out hard copy, mail in, the interactive mapping tool. We're also happy to send out maps to people physically if you'd like to mark them up and send them back to us, or phone calls. And so that's why we focused on the different rounds of engagement as well, because through this visioning round of engagement, we maybe only have the 22 minus the 5, so maybe 17 public representatives here, but we will also have a number of different ones for the other different projects, as well as through the online engagement and hopefully the physical input gathering as well. So we're trying to also think about the bigger picture, and all of these really wonderful and great comments about how we can do better. We really do take back with us and try and think about how we can build that into not only the municipality's communication and outreach efforts that they're doing on their end, but also on the engagement side of things that we're trying to support them with on our end too. So please keep them coming, keep the ideas coming. If you have avenues in addition to the mailouts that you can think of, whether or not it's a club or a group or even just an informal group of people that you are connected with that you'd like to build into the conversation, we're happy to add them to any lists or reach out to them as needed. But these are all extremely helpful for us. Newspaper to explore, I saw the comment in the chat, so thank you very much for all of these, and extremely helpful for us going forward as we try and build in even more engagement and generate even more input. So with that, again, 8 minutes, if there are any other comments or questions, we're happy to take them. Absolutely. Matt, I'm not sure if you had anything else you wanted to add.
I just wanted to plug one more thing. On Monday, as Claire mentioned, we're having the special council meeting, the Section 26 council meeting, and you are welcome to register for that. And so if you are interested, you can visit the website or email the municipality or give them a call even and register to share your thoughts with council, just as a next opportunity if you were interested. So.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for your time. 8 minutes to spare. I don't know if that helps you out with your evening. I hope it does. We'll be here for those 8 minutes if you'd like to stay online and ask any questions. But if you are feeling like you've received all of the information that you'd like to take in and shared all of your ideas, you're welcome to leave. But I guess before you do, I just wanted to say on behalf of the consulting team, thank you so much for your time here this evening. We really, really do appreciate it. And the input, again, like I said and continue to say, it doesn't go into an abyss. We really do pour through it to try and understand how we can respond to it and how we can also integrate it into our next steps to help build out the vision and also these strategies collectively and together as a group. And so thank you so much again for your time. Jen, I'm not sure if there were any parting words that you wanted to provide just on behalf of the municipality.
Thank you, Clara. I do also want to say thank you to everybody who attended tonight's session. It is really important that we get as much participation by the public and feedback through this process. It really is a foundational document that's going to guide the municipality for the next 20 years. And so I'm happy to see the people that attended, but please shout out to the others that you might know that might be interested. There will be plenty of opportunities, as Claire mentioned, along the way. So thank you. Please invite your friends and family to participate as well. And we will chat later. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll keep our eyes peeled for any other comments if they are in the chat, or if you'd like to add them for the team.
Jen, just a quick question. I see all the public's off now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're still recording.
Yeah.